What's going on, everyone? This video we're looking at the Thursday night showdown slate between the Bengals and the Browns. We have some big tournaments on both sites, 300k on Draftkings, like 250k on Fanduel. So let's get started. Should be a fun night. As always, appreciate it if you hit the like button on the video and subscribe if you have not already. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at the DFS Process. Links in description. You can also check out the website if you want for week 2. Links also in the description. Looking to get the week 2 bounce back started tonight with a nice showdown win. So let's get started. We had the Bengals. They looked pretty good in week 1. Both teams kind of struggled. Them and the Chargers struggled to move the ball. Once they got into the opponent's 50-yard line, inside the 50-yard line, they just couldn't really get into the end zone. Burrow had that one touchdown with his legs. It's against the Browns defense that is going to be prone to giving up some big points. And the Bengals do have some good playmakers. Burrow looked really good in his first game action. No preseason under his belt. He was pretty efficient. He had one bad interception where he tried to just shovel it to the running back and ended up right in the hands of the defensive end. So that was pretty bad, but he definitely he had 2 shots down the field to win the game. Had that interception on the first one, and then the second one, the kicker missed the field goal. Also had AJ Green in the end zone for a touchdown, but that got called back because of a penalty. So I think Burrow looks good. He's going to be able to move the ball against this Cleveland defense. He's also only projected to score like 18.5 points right now. He's a 6-point underdog. So I feel like people are going to go with Baker Mayfield more than Burrow because he's cheaper and Mayfield is has the higher total. For that reason, I like Burrow more than Mayfield tonight. I don't mind Baker, but it's just that I like Burrow a little bit more. If I can get both of them in my lineup, I will. Mayfield should be able to score a lot more points tonight against this Bengals defense, but a little bit worried about him. He just doesn't look super sharp. He's been given so many good weapons the last couple of years and hasn't really done much with it. It's only a 1-game sample size this year, so hopefully that doesn't happen. But if he struggles this year, then he's probably going to be out the door. So he really needs to play well in this season going forward. AJ Green looks really good. He had that touchdown that he got called back because he pushed off. But that would have been a nice score added to his fantasy line. Would have given him like 17, 18 fantasy points. He is just at a good price point. Could play my captain if you want. Wasn't really limited at all after missing like all last season with that ankle injury. So I think he looks really good to pair with Burrow. Mixon also struggled in week 1. He had that fumble, which he never fumbles. That's his like second fumble in the last 2+ years. So that probably won't happen again. But hopefully he gets a little bit more involved in the passing game. Only had 2 catches, or only 1 catch off 2 targets. So hopefully Burrow looks to check down a little bit more with a guy like Mixon. But 12-9, he's definitely viable to play at captain. Odell Beckham is just $200 more than Landry, so I feel like he's going to get a lot more ownership, and I kind of do like Beckham more, but if you want to go with a lower owned play, you can go with Landry because he's not going to get that much love being so closely priced to Beckham and the fact that he has a questionable tag on him. So that's just some pivots you can make if you're trying to be unique tonight. Another pivot is probably playing Hunt over Chubb, although Hunt had more fantasy points in week 1, I feel like people are going to go with Chubb more just because of what he's been doing. But it's a new offensive coordinator this year with the Browns, new coach, so who knows how he's going to split the running back duties. But I would expect Chubb to get more work than Hunt, at least on the ground. Maybe Hunt gets more targets out of the backfield. Tyler Boyd looks okay at 7K. I'm never really thrilled about playing Boyd whenever AJ Green is with him. He's just like the third option besides Mixon and Green to catch the ball. I mean, maybe not Mixon to catch the ball, but at least to like touch the ball. I guess he looks okay, but I'm probably gonna have a tough time fitting him in at 7,000. I would rather go to like John Ross, hope that he can break a big one. He's only 5,200. Rather go to like Uzama at 5,000 with no Eifert, who's on the Jaguars this year. So I'm not that interested in Tyler Boyd. Hooper played a big portion of the snaps, played like 77%, but he only had 2 targets. That should change this week with David Njoku on the IR, so he's going to get a lot more targets at tight end at 6,800. He definitely looks playable. And then you could look at both kickers if you want. We could see a lower scoring game. I'm expecting a high scoring game, but that could lead to a bunch of field goals too. Bullock missed the game tying field goal, and then he injured his calf, quote unquote, but he ended up practicing, so not sure it's anything serious with him. So he should be good to go. Pretty disappointing because he's a really good kicker. He just completely shanked that one. So you definitely could play him if you want at 42. You could play Cody Parkey, who is now going to take over for the Browns. At kicker, I like Bullock a little bit more. And then I'm not that interested in playing either defense. Like I said, I kind of expect a higher scoring game here. And that is pretty much it. There's no cheap guy that I would take a punt flyer on, like Mike Thomas. He had 2 catches, but he's not going to play that many snaps. He just played 15 snaps. So maybe Higgins, you could just punt with some of these guys, but these guys are like if you play 150 lineups to sprinkle in. If you just play like 1 or 2 or a handful of lineups, you're not going to want to play any of these guys. So that's just a quick breakdown. I'll look at some builds that we can potentially use tonight. Captain, Mixon at 12-9 could be a nice captain spot. Go with Burrow, go with Green. You kind of get, hopefully all the touchdowns could be concentrated among these 3 guys. And then you can throw in some of the Browns guys that I like a little bit. Like you could even play Beckham if you want. You could play Beckham. You could go with like a kicker if you want. You could see if you could fit in Hooper, and then 2,300 you're gonna have to go with a punt play that you don't really want to go with, like Auden Tate or Higgins. So that's gonna be a bit tough to do. Instead of Beckham, if we wanna go with like Hunt, could do that, and then at 3,100 maybe take a shot on Gio Bernard and hope that. That's gonna be super contrarian playing both Bernard and Mixon in your lineup. So Hooper is decently expensive. If you wanted to stack the Bengals, could do something like that. It's kind of tough right now with that build. So let's see if we can shake it up. And let's see if we play Joe Burrow at captain with Green, Mixon, Hunt, and then you could play both kickers if you want. That's definitely going to be different. Let's see if you want to play Beckham at captain. Hope that he has a very good game. Play Mayfield with him, still get Burrow in there. And then go with like Uzama, John Ross as 2 lower owned guys that could definitely get some work and steal some work. And then we're going to be a little bit limited to fit in who we want to fit in, so we'll probably have to maybe, instead of Burrow, you could play Green if you wanted to fade Burrow in one lineup, and then play like Landry or Chubb or something like that. You could do something like this, and then maybe play Mayfield at captain instead. So a lot of different ways to go with your showdown build. I think my favorite build is probably gonna be with like AJ Green or Mixon at captain, just because they allow me to do a little bit more. The Browns have a lot of pieces on offense that could take some work, so it's a little bit tougher to nail down where all the production is gonna come from. You would expect it to come from like Beckham and Landry, but still they have like 4 guys that could get a lot of touches. So I think Green, he's gonna get peppered with some targets this week. Him and Burrow look like my favorite two stack. If you don't want to play Mixon, because he is kind of expensive at 86, if you're gonna be hoping that the passing game goes off, then you could play these 2 guys. You could play Nick Chubb at 76. We could take a punt play with like Uzama or John Ross. Ross has a little bit more upside, so for GPPs, I'd go with Ross just because he has that ceiling. If he can, break the defense, it can get you a long touchdown, something that Uzama's not really going to do. And then you're down to 6,400 left. You could still play Beckham and then play a kicker, like Bullock if you want. Or, yeah, you definitely could do that. If you wanted to completely stack the Bengals, you could do this, but that's going to be super different. But yeah, there's just a lot of ways to go. I do like the Bengals side a little bit more just because I like Burrow and Green stack. And then on the Brown side, I'm looking at Beckham a lot, and I like Chubb and Mayfield. So that's it for the Draftkings breakdown. Let's go over to Fanduel and see how the pricing shakes out over there. All right, on Fanduel, since we are not paying more for captain, I always like to get my highest projected guy in there. I think Burrow looks really good tonight against this Browns defense. He could play, a cheap AJ Green if you want at 11,000. But I'm gonna have Burrow in my lineup for sure on FanDuel at 14.5. Definitely going to pair him with AJ Green, who's only 11K. And then on FanDuel, you have Chubb at 13.5, and then you have Hunt down to 95. So it's just a huge price difference for the fact that they could split like 60-40% of the work, or maybe even 50-50, depending on if they go back off of last week. Hunt is just too cheap on FanDuel, so he looks really good at 95. And then you have Hooper at just 8,000 on FanDuel. You have John Ross at 75, Uzama at 65. So you have enough cheap plays to, still play a guy like Beckham, and then 13.5 play like Mixon if you want. So this is definitely a build that you can use on FanDuel. You could play both quarterbacks if you want to play Mayfield, and then at $10,000, take a shot on Boyd if you want. But I definitely like Hunt and I definitely like these three a bunch. They're just like my three guys that I'm definitely going to start my build with. And then you can play like Mixon and Mayfield, or throw in Beckham. And then on FanDuel, if you want to leave some money on the table, because this lineup, if you use all the cap and you play a guy like Burrow at captain, you're probably going to tie with a lot of people. So maybe leave 500 to 1,000 bucks on the table just to be different. So that's kind of it for tonight. That's just a quick breakdown of what guys I'm interested in. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it, and best of luck tonight.